its 7th season, the Lapped Traffic Podcast has brought you over 300 shows, driver and media interviews, awesome stories and entertainment, and one of the coolest fantasy leagues around. Get ready for another exciting season. Sit back, relax, and try not to get lapped. Now, here's your host, the Professor, Brendan Cross.
What is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 301 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Yes, I am your host, the Professor Brandon Crowd. We are back. How amazing is that new intro? Huge thanks to Terrence Ward from Memphis Wrestling for doing the voiceover for that. It's got a mix of NASCAR with wrestling, and if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know how much I love my WWE. And I saw Terrence on TikTok, and I'm like, this guy is awesome. He does voiceovers. He'll do intros for the wrestlers and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I think he would do one hell of an intro for the podcast. Reached out to him. 2 days later, boom, we got ourselves a brand new kick-ass intro for the podcast this year, which is just awesome. Absolutely love it. And of course, he's going to be on the show. We're going to talk some wrestling in a couple weeks that I am very much looking forward to. Let's see here. Well, can you believe it's been 62 days, 2 months since episode 300 was posted back in December. And looking back on it, it feels like Christmas was yesterday, but it wasn't. It was like 2 months ago, which is absolutely insane that here we are, first week into February already of 2023. The time does fly, and everyone told me, "Oh, wait till you have your kid. It's going to fly even quicker." And sure enough, it is definitely flying. Hope you guys all had an incredible holiday season, great new year. Speaking of Alden, it was so much fun experiencing Christmas and the holidays with him. He has developed such a little personality, and it is just so much fun watching him and his curiosity grow. I cannot believe he is going to be 1 in less than 2 weeks, and we will be doing a huge celebration Daytona weekend for him. As you guys know, we usually throw a big Daytona party, so we're going to kind of do a little hybrid thing. On Saturday during the Xfinity race will be Alden's party, which is going to be all decked out, racing themed. I cannot wait to share with you guys his birthday. What do you call it? It's a fire suit. I'm just going to call it what it is. I got him a fire suit for his birthday, and it is amazing, and cannot wait to share some pictures because it's just incredible. All right. So there's a quick little recap on us here. Season 7. Can you believe that? I am just blown away that this is season 7. And I mean, it's lucky number 7. And it was high time to do some changes to the format. The format's been the same basically for the last, this is year 7. So the last 5 years, the format really has not changed too much on the show, and it was time to freshen things up. Hence the new intro music, as I just mentioned, and going to have some changes to the show as well. The interviews and all that are going to remain the same. As far as race coverage, I'm going to focus less on race specifics and more on, some general impacts. And, if it makes sense to talk standings, we'll talk standings. If there's, a driver drama building, we'll talk that. If it makes sense to throw questions to you guys, I'll do that, which I did earlier today. That I'm going to do a lot more of for sure. And I think 2 of the biggest changes is that I am going to move the weather segment out of the show for the most part, with the exception of big races. But Aaron and Brian and myself are going to switch to do Twitter Spaces during race weeks, and we'll do a weather segment later in the week live for you guys to be able to come and join a scheduled, Twitter space, if you will. And it worked out very, very well when I did the new rules for Lap Traffic Fantasy last week. Scheduled it, gave you guys date and time. I had 20 people that joined in and out throughout the time that I ran it, and passed the mic option around, basically. Was able to interact with you guys, and I think that will be a lot of fun to be able to do that with Brian and Aaron, and to be a little bit more interactive with you guys, and to, like I said, switch that out of the show. I think that's run its course, with the exception of some special times to either just have them on as the guest that week or something, but freshen that up. And then, as I mentioned at the end of last season, that we were going to be retiring the Lucky Dog and Lap Down segment, which is going to be replaced by a new segment. I put that out to you guys, have run a contest over the last couple weeks, and have gotten a bunch of submissions by you guys on ideas and topics for a new show segment. And I will announce that winner here a little later on in the show. And then the fantasy segment will pretty much remain the same. So what's that all mean? Well, as you guys know, had the baby last year, took a few more off weeks than I usually do, and I want to be able to get back to doing weekly shows as much as possible, and needed to be able to kind of condense the amount of time I had to specifically record with people and all of that. So the shows might be a little shorter this year, but more of a live presence on Twitter, between Twitter Spaces, questions for you guys and stuff like that I'll wrap up into the show. That's what you can expect. And speaking of fantasy, there is still time to go register for this year's Lap Traffic Fantasy League, year 7 of that as well. And yes, there are limits to the truck series, as teased and expected. If you didn't check out the live Twitter Spaces last week, that's definitely one of the new rules. So if you want to join, all you have to do is send an email to fantasylaptraffic@gmail.com. Give me your name, email, Twitter if you got one, and get you signed up. It's free. It's fun. And there are some awesome Lap Traffic swag and trophies personalized that we get sent out at the end of the year, which is a lot of fun. So, all right. That's the, what do you call it there? That is the nuts and bolts, if you will. Now, what is coming up on tonight's show? Well, had to keep things going with the momentum from episode 300 last year, and kicking off season 7 and the next 100 shows is the legendary Jeff Gluck, Scott Page from Jayski.com, and yes, we got a driver. We got John Hunter Nemechek going to be talking about making the move over back over to the Xfinity series. So that's what we got lined up for you guys tonight. I will also do a little Clash recap and work in some of the feedback from you guys as well. But let's stop wasting time. How long was this much overran intro? 8 minutes here. Let's get Jeff Gluck back on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his 4th appearance on the Lap Traffic podcast, here to kick off season 7 and episode 301 from The Athletic and a tweet up near you. It is the legendary Jeff Gluck. Jeff, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good. You know, I will say that I was very, you graciously invited me to be on episode number 300, which is a big episode and a big round number. And I dropped the ball. It was in the off season. And I never got back to you, at least in a timely manner. And so now I'm on 301, but 301's fine. That's sort of, it would be more prestigious to be like, oh, I'm part of episode 300, but 301, new year, I'll take being the kickoff for this one.
Well, I mean, you have an open invite right now for episode 400, but I hope that's not the next time you're on the show. How's that?
That could be a while, huh? Yeah.
Well, because the last time you were on was on episode 199. So you've been the pre and now the post of the.
Oh, man. So I'm just missing these. Wow. Well, I just saw recently that the Dale Jr. Download announced that they're going to be going to 3 times a week episodes. So if you start doing 3 lap traffics a week, you'll get to 400 much quicker that way. Yeah.
I would need to have some listener dollar contributions to do that, because we'd have to stop the real job for that. So
yeah, I hear you.
Well, listen, man, before we get into all the NASCAR stuff, how were the holidays? How are the kiddos doing? All that good stuff.
Oh man. This did not seem like my normal sort of off season. I wouldn't say I'm refreshed as I normally would be. my brother-in-law got married in Indianapolis in December, in like the second week of December, basically.
Okay.
And so we were already going to spend Christmas there. So we ended up, spending like 3.5 weeks at my in-laws, which is, a long time to be away from home, be in somebody's house. Then I got caught up in the Southwest Airlines.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. So I ended up having to drive back by myself. The family came later once the flights were available. I drove back by myself from Indianapolis to Denver after trying to get a flight for 3 days. That wasn't my favorite thing. Then I got back and, I'd gotten a jury summons, and my entire life, I'm 42 years old. You get the jury summons and you get dismissed. You just get out of it. It's never been, so I ended up like making it to, the actual courtroom this time. And there was still like 80 people in there. And I was like, I was just sort of in the back, and I didn't say anything. And I thought I was good. I was like, well, this is one long day of jury selection, but it's kind of interesting to see it. And then I got picked. They called my name.
Wow.
And it turned out to be a week-long sexual assault trial.
Wow.
It was super not fun at all. Really heavy. And then next thing you know, now here we are back to work. Right. So
that's crazy.
It's been a little bit unusual of an off season. I could use just like
one more.
I really could. Yeah, that would just be nice. Just like organize my closet or all those off season projects you want to do. Oh, I'll do that. I'll do that after the season ends.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do any of that. So, but the calendar does not stop for anybody. So here we go.
That's funny about the jury thing, because my wife had our first baby last February. So he's going to turn 1 in 2 weeks, and she got a jury summons to report like it was going to be a month after the baby was due. So the doctor, wrote a letter. Hey, she's going to be a 1 month fresh mother. Like, please excuse her. And sure enough, 2 days ago, she got in the mail a jury summons for the same district court, all of that. So, but my wife is geeked about it. She can't wait. She hopes it's like a month-long thing. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, right.
Dad needs you home.
Yeah. Well, I will say, after the third day, they start paying you. So I got $50.
There you go.
Woo!
That almost probably covered your gas and parking to the courthouse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great, man. Well, listen, I believe if the math serves correctly, you are coming up on your 5-year anniversary at the Athletic.
Yeah. So I started in the middle of the season in May, but this will be my 5th season. I think it's funny because. So the longest job I've ever had is 4 years. So once I get to May and get past that magical mark, this will be the longest job I've ever had at the Athletic. I was sort of, I think I was sort of resigned to, hey, the journalism industry is too turbulent, and you'd always just have to move around. I went to like newspaper, magazine, blog, website, back to newspaper, back to website, all the stuff, my own thing. And, you're just like, I don't know, how am I ever going to just find a home sort of? And I don't know, like it just sort of works out that I've really enjoyed the Athletic. I like the company culture. I like who I work with.
It seems like the format is more relaxed to allow more creativity on your end, which I think just, the few times we've chatted, seen each other in person, it seems like that fits you, I think.
I see a lot of the other media people doing what I used to do, whether that is really getting caught up in the day-to-day stuff. And that's what you have to do. Like, if you're working for, NBCsports.com or something, and a driver says something, even half notable in the media sessions, you got to write it right away. I mean, it's news and you got to write it. Where, the way our model is, it just sort of allows me to sort of sit back and more take like a broader look at like the weekend or a trend as a whole or something.
Sure.
And then write about that. I might still use some of what that driver said, but maybe I can take that and build off into, ask other people about it or something. I don't think that the urgency is there much because we're not, we're a subscription model. So you're not going for, of course we'd like to get as much traffic and page views as possible because then more people will subscribe.
Sure.
If you draw 100 people to your website and 1 out of every 100 subscribes, then you got to draw more and more to get your subscriptions. But, so you still want people to read, but at the same time, the people that are coming there are like, okay, they know this is going to be more of like maybe more of a big picture type thing in a lot of cases. So I feel more comfortable doing that kind of stuff or sitting down doing a profile on somebody, because my interest in racing has always been about the people and the cars. I want to talk about the personalities and help people understand who these drivers are. I'm not as technical, so I don't really dive into that as much. Of course, we'll talk about rule packages and stuff like that and the racing, but I'm more comfortable talking about the people, I guess,
Sure. No, absolutely. No, that's awesome. Jeff, big news today with some rule changes. It's pretty exciting. I've been saying for years that, something's got to be done. I'm one of the few, maybe few, but I don't mind the stages. I'm okay with that. I'm even fine with throwing the caution. My biggest gripe has always been, can we not count the laps on the stage cautions? That's been like my biggest thing since this came out. I get the rationale behind it. I can get behind all of that. And we saw kind of that first step a little bit, today in terms of, well, they're still going to count the laps, but there's not going to be the natural or the unnatural caution, if you will, at road courses. And I think that's a great thing. I think there was too much manipulation, I think, in terms of crew chief and drivers when we went to the road courses. What's your thought on the new changes that came out?
I'm highly in favor of this, and it was interesting to tweet out, the news from the rules briefing, and then you rarely see this on NASCAR Twitter, but it was like it felt unanimous approval. Like people were really pumped to see that the cautions or they weren't going to. Yeah, if I could trust those Twitter polls, yeah, right. I just think if you could trace back to when it felt like road courses started going downhill a little bit from what they had been in recent years, I think it's when, the stages came in, because once everybody figured out, okay, it's pretty much a straightforward strategy. You either short pit and cycle back to the lead, or you go for stage points and you get buried in the back and your race is pretty much over. And you pick one of those strategies and when the cautions are coming. I liked when, you'd throw on the Sonoma race and they'd say, okay, they're going to, do this race backwards. And, the strategy and, you didn't know when the caution was coming. And, some people obviously could get hurt by that. You chose to put on tires and you got burned by it, or, maybe you stayed out too long or whatever, and that's part of it. That's part of racing, right? Like you don't know when it's going to come out. And, so I like that, look, if you still want to stay on the track and make sure you're out there getting stage points, fine. But, a lot of people will, maybe do a different strategy now, and we'll see some, I think we're going to see things that we can't even sit here and think of right now, because what happens with I think with these rule changes, every time a policy changes, there's some unintended consequence, or some crew chief or driver thinks up something, and then you're like, ooh, that's an interesting wrinkle. So I'm sure the crew chiefs are already going, okay, all right, this is what I'm going to pit on lap 2 at Watkins Glen. I don't know why, but somebody's going to come up with something, and that's what's going to be interesting. Like I'm anxious to see what will happen now. And I hope that will make the road courses more intriguing, because it just felt too formulaic, and there's so many road courses now. You definitely don't want to do that.
No,
so
that's the thing, and I remember when I first started getting into the sport, which was, early 2000s, and, I didn't like the road courses. Those were the 2 race weekends where I didn't necessarily pay as much attention or didn't watch. We're talking 20 years ago. And as time slowly developed and, we started getting our own ringers within the sport and it started getting more competitive, they became so much enjoyable to where it's like I was clamoring at the bit for those 2 road courses every year. And now I've talked about it, there's a saturation number that I think we're teetering very close with the number that we have because, I relate it to my love for the truck series. I get so bummed when there's not a truck series race on a Friday night or a Saturday. I want more. And I think we're close with the number of road course races that we have. And this is a step to get back to that excitement. Like you said, it started to go downhill a little bit. And I think this is going to do wonders for the road course races this year.
I hope so. And, I totally agree with you about the saturation point. We were asking for more short tracks, not more road courses necessarily. I think more road courses was fine when they went to the third one with the Roval, adding that, everybody was really excited in the first couple editions that were like, wow. But then all of a sudden when you go 4, 5, 6, you're like, okay, whoa. Like, the one at the Brickyard still bothers me so much. Like, what is the point of this?
Right.
Like, what is going on here? This doesn't need to be a road course race. There's enough. This one, go to the Oval. It's fine. So yeah, maybe this one little simple thing will spice them up enough to make us look forward to them more again. I think the new car hurt them too last year, but I'm certainly in favor of this, and I don't think it can hurt anything. That's for sure.
No, I'm with you. Jeff, I want to talk a couple driver changes with you. We've got them throughout all 3 series. Obviously, we got Haley Deegan in the truck series to Thor Sport. We've got Cole Custer back to Xfinity. We got Brandon Jones moving over to Junior Motorsports. Dinger back full time, and obviously, the Kyle Busch Tyler Riddick swap, so to speak. There, what ones stand out? Obviously Kyle and Tyler are big ones, but what are some ones that you're going to be having a close eye on to see, if the change of scenery, makes a difference for anybody?
Aside from the Kyle Reddick one, which I think is obviously, like you said, the one that's going to be a talking point for all season long to just see how they're doing and who's having a better season and, what's the expectations. I'm very intrigued by the Ryan Preece Stewart Haas Racing one. That's an interesting move. Ryan Preece didn't have that much success really at JTG. He's shown at times, he's obviously a super talented driver, but, and he bet on himself with those, Xfinity races at JGR and stuff, and was able to sort of prove he deserved a chance. But, is he going to get in the car and really outperform what Cole Custer was doing? I'm not sure. Stewart Haas Racing isn't like super, they haven't had a ton of success in recent years. I'm just curious to see what happens there, because it feels like that's sort of like a make or break for him in a way, right? Like,
yeah,
he's gotten this chance. It was sort of like, well, that's an interesting move. Like, people weren't like, oh yeah, that's a total no brainer. And what happens there? He sort of has to produce, right? Like, I don't know if you get another good ride if you go there and you're not able to perform well or make the playoffs or whatever. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that one, because I think that's really interesting.
I like that. I've got 2 then follow-up Stewart Haas questions for you then. And the first is, if you're Cole Custer, we have seen success of guys that, quote unquote, got demoted, if you will. We've seen it with Justin Allgaier, who, performed for a very long time at the Cup Series and has had great success at JRM back in the Xfinity Series. We've seen it with with AJ Allmendinger, who even stepped away from the sport for a minute and is now going to be back full time in the Cup. What do you make of this with Cole? Can he rebound from this? And so what do you see happening there?
So, I feel like, his rookie year, he gets that win at Kentucky with that great restart, right? And, the SHR was down as a whole, in general the last few years, but, he had 7 top 10s that year, right? And his average finish was 19.2. And you think, okay, well, hey, that's something to build off. I think the problem for him was he went backward.
Sure.
He had 2 top 10s the next year. He had 3 top 10s last year. And his average finish both of those years wasn't as good as his rookie season. So you're like, okay, well, what to make of this? Because, here's a guy who in the Xfinity Series, he had that year before he came out to Cup where he won 7 races. He was like, okay, there's, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, people like that, Noah Gregson's year last year, the Ty Gibbs, the guys that are moving up.
And he, in the same year with Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick is another great example where you're like, okay, these guys have proved they are, they've accomplished what they need to in Xfinity, and they can move up, and they'll be good at the next level. So now you send them back down. So I guess, first of all, you have to win, right? Like, you have to. You can't go there and just be like, oh, okay, I'm a top 10 driver. It's like, okay, we're all expecting you now to, maybe you don't have to win 7 races, but you got to win 3, 4 or something.
At least. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I guess maybe if you regain your confidence, but then I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me. Cause like, then what do you do? Okay. Like, let's say Almirola retires. Then you say, okay, yeah, Cole Custer, he won 5 Xfinity races and he made the final 4. Like, do you move him back up and just say, oh, he'll be better now? Like, is it all it comes down to his confidence, or like, how do you get excited about Cole Custer again? Like, and that's a tough issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So my second SHR is, what can we expect, or what should we expect with the Kevin Harvick Forever Tour here in 2023?
I guess my expectations are a little muted. I still think Harvick is obviously capable of winning races. He proved that last year by winning twice, but also it's like, he's getting up there, like, and his performance isn't what it was. He just turned 47 in December. He just turned 47. So, that's pretty much on the older end of things, and you can keep yourself in great shape, but, you're competing against really aggressive guys in their early 20s and stuff like that, where, you could be their dad.
Right.
And so that's tough. I just think he's, everywhere he goes all year, it's going to be like, hey, it's your last time here. We're going to give you this gift. You're going to have to answer questions reflecting on your career. There's going to be a lot of distractions.
Sure.
And we just haven't seen like great farewell tours, I guess. So that's where my hesitation is. Like, Jimmy Johnson didn't win a race really his last few years, right? But definitely not his last year. And it's really kind of struggled that last year, right? The same car the next year after Jimmy left won 10 races in the championship.
Yeah.
With the same team. Guys who have gone out recently just haven't. You had that great Jeff Gordon moment.
I was just going
where
to say, Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
Would we consider that though as successful? We've had guys that haven't had the quote unquote full year pomp and circumstance, right? Like, we're going to expect Kevin Harvick to have, like Jeff Gordon had, Jimmy Johnson had. There have been some guys that have waited till and said, no, I'm done, and haven't gone through that. So yeah, I am very curious to see, how this plays out. Like you said, there's going to be a ton of distractions. That's going to make it very interesting for sure there.
Yeah. Dale Jr. didn't win a race his last year. Tony Stewart, his last year, did he get that Sonoma win? Was that his last season?
Yes.
I think?
Yeah.
That
was it. Yep.
That was sort of like his last, send off kind of thing. But yeah, like his last couple years, before that, he didn't win a race either. So, it's tough. Once you start to lose it and you're not winning as consistently anymore, and, we all, Harvick, he wins 9 races and you're thinking he's going to win the championship, misses the final 4. And then it's like, ever since then, like what happened? I mean, he almost, until he won those 2 races last year.
Yeah.
It was like,
what's going on?
Is he ever going to win again?
Yeah. Yep. All right, Jeff, last one for you. We're getting ready to kick off 2023 season. What are the first few races that the fans can expect to maybe see at the racetrack?
So I'm going to do, I go Clash, Daytona 500, Fontana. Fontana is really important to me because, first of all, I love that track, just the oval, and I want to see the last race on the big oval there before they turn it into the short track. And I also used to work at the local newspaper out there. That was my home track. I lived about 10 minutes away from there, just for a few years. But like, I have a lot of memories there, like the nostalgia.
Sure.
Every time I go there, and I'm like, man, like this is, it'll be in the same place, but it's not going to look the same. I'm sure everything about the infield and all that stuff will change. And I just want to soak that up one more time. And then I'm going to go to Vegas because I was kind of like, okay, do I go to Vegas or Phoenix? I'd rather, Phoenix with the short track package.
Yeah.
Been okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather see, hey, the 1.5 miles are good now, right?
They're coming back.
Yeah. So I'd rather go see a 1.5 mile race and the first 1.5 mile race of the year at that, and just see like, hey, is this a tone setter? Like who's, is it going to be a surprise? Is it going to be somebody we expect? So yeah, those are going to be my first 4. And then for me living in Denver, Colorado, it doesn't really make sense to go to like that first Atlanta or the first Martinsville and, those kind of races. But I'm glad they have a couple big races out early, like the Clash and then Daytona 500, which obviously you can't miss. And then the West Coast swing makes it easier for me, know?
Awesome, man. Well, there you have it, guys. You can go catch Jeff there at those first couple races. Jeff, man, thank you so much for coming on and helping kick off year 7 of the podcast. And we're not going to go 100 episodes before you're back on. How's that?
How about 350?
I love it.
Episode 350.
Perfect.
Because that's a nice number too. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. All right, Jeff, man.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. Make sure you go follow Jeff at Jeff Gluck. Go subscribe to The Athletic and all that good stuff. Jeff, man, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me and inviting me back, even though I'm not very good about responding sometimes. That's my bad.
No worries, brother. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Great to have Jeff Gluck back on the line. And I think it has to happen now. He just has to be on episode 400. There's no way around that. Okay. Let's talk about the Clash real quick. Obviously there was some love, there was some hate, and here's my take on it. I think part of the hate is due to the fact that what should have been a 2-hour time block was from 5 o'clock Eastern time till whenever that thing ended. And it was just way too much. And I get that it's hard. You don't know how long each of the heat races are going to take. You don't know how long the last chance qualifiers are going to take, plus the actual race itself. I get you want to build a little pomp and circumstance in there. You're going to have your break with your music. That is what it is. You're either a fan of that, of the music, or you're not. And I'm trying to avoid that conversation and just strictly look at the racing product that we got and why I feel there was some frustration out there. And I think, like I said, there was just too much time, and it did not need to be dragged out that long. And I think if it would have been condensed and just back to back to back, do your music act before, after your second last chance qualifier, as you're getting teams into position, you're getting the cars lined up for the actual race itself. Let's not stop the race midway through. It's 150 laps on a 1/4 mile track. Just let them go. Or, build in your caution for, your pits change because you don't have a pit road, and, go interview somebody or something like that. I just think that it got just too dragged out. I can't think of anything else to say other than if that thing had been a 2.5-hour TV time from start to finish with your heat races and your race, you'd have been perfect and you would have hit it on. I think that's where there is some frustration, in my opinion. But I digress on that. Great to see Martin Truex Jr. back in victory lane. And, I think that was much needed for him. His team gave him a little jolt. And let's see if that can carry over into the regular season. It was also great to see Kyle Busch, finish second, podium finish, because apparently we do those now. And it was great to see him smile all weekend. I saw a lot of people commenting on that, whether it was from, pictures posted on social media, some interviews that he did, and he looked happy. Change of scenery maybe has done that. He wrecks the first 3 races. Obviously, we're not going to see a smiling Kyle Busch, but it looked like he's in a good spot and in a good space right now, which that's cool to see. And for me, the big question is once Auto Club is reconfigured, where should this race get moved to? That's one question. I think they should definitely go back there a third time, especially because Auto Club's not going to be done until the 2025 season or whatever it is. So give it some time. Let it at least give it the rubber match and give it a third time and see if it gets a little bit better reaction from everybody. And, I think the heat races were amazing. Those were fantastic. I think one of the other issues is not that on top of the fact of how long it got drawn out was I think there were too many cars on the track. I definitely think that impacted things. You look at how cool the heat races were and how awesome those were. And even your last chance qualifiers, 27 cars? I think that's too many. I think 20 would have been the sweet spot, if I'm being honest with you. And, bring everybody. Add more heat races, condense the, top 2, whatever it was. I think it was the top 3, or I'm drawing a blank on the format there, but, cut that field down. Make it even more prestigious, if you will. And I think that would definitely add to that for sure. Okay. I did ask you guys, since Auto Club is not going to have a race in 2024, I believe it was. Yes, 2024. That's a spot on the schedule that needs to be filled, and ask you guys where you would like to see a race in place of Auto Club. And let's see, Jay Isaac at Isaac J63 said IRP. Patrick at Patrick Draw 19 said Irwindale Speedway. Dave at DB Krieg and EJ43 at Petty Fan 4398. And Matt Kemper at Camper News Net all said Rockingham. Dave at Real David Kahn said, honestly, I think Wilkesboro will get that spot next season unless they keep the All-Star race. I'd like to see Rockingham, Iowa, or even Milwaukee get a shot at a cup race. Andrew at Racing Cants, Daytona Road Course, Long Beach, or Laguna. Matthew at CH9 SE Fan, second Concrete, Bristol, or Michigan. I'll take a second Michigan track since ours has gotten cut. I'll go back there twice. Roger at ROJODI Sonoma, take the earlier second date and then give a second race to New Hampshire. Jess at Iowa NASCAR Fan, Irwindale or Kern on the West Coast. And blowing the doors off at BT DOP Podcast, leave the Clash in LA, let that breathe for a bit for the rebuild. Give the date to Homestead, let them have 2 races in 2024. Potential weather concern eliminated, and Homestead is a great track. Keep the teams east for 1 more week. I'm all about that. And by the way, if you're not following Blowing the Doors Off with good friends B. Wayne and Andrew Sherwin, make sure you're going and checking them out. They actually had a show last week, which was awesome. Great perspective. Make sure you go check them out. So for me, I'm all about IRP. Let's do that. I think that would be fantastic. I mean, obviously, if they want to give Michigan a second date, I'll take it. Not keeping my hopes on that one. But I think IRP would be fantastic for the Cup Series. We've seen the payoff with trucks and Xfinity. Let's go let the big dogs get a little piece of that action there. That would be my vote for sure. All right. The first listener feedback of the season. First of many. Okay, let's keep things going. As you guys know, Dustin Albino from Jayski.com comes on from time to time. And I wanted to have Scott Page on, who was the original connection to Jayski, and he hasn't been on in quite some time, and I'm saving Dustin for when there's some good wrestling talk to be had. So, much like Jeff, I had reached out to Scott for 300, and we weren't able to make it work, but we're able to make it work for the kickoff on season 7. So without further ado, Scott Page, Jayski.com. Episode 301 from everybody's favorite stat and image and paint scheme website. Welcome back from Jayski.com. It is Scott Page. Sir, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing very well, ready for the season to get started. And I can't believe this is my 7th appearance. I would have guessed that. So.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. You know, once you come on once, like odds are, you know, you're just going to be a lifer on the show. You can go ask Jeff Striegel about that.
So you're like some sort of STD. Is that what you're saying?
I just keep coming back. You cannot get rid of me.
Oh, let me just set a marker with a season by starting off with that statement.
Oh, good times, man. Well, yeah, you know, like we were talking before we got started, you know, the off season just, you know, I literally feel like it's the first week of December and I just got done posting, you know, episode 300. I haven't done a show since then. And it's like, you know, it's like you don't skip a beat and, you know, the holidays are a blur. You know? So,
yeah, it's like you take a couple weeks of breather when the season ends and then suddenly it's Thanksgiving. It swirls right into Christmas. You know, it gets cold for those of us living in the Midwest and anywhere else. And next thing you know, it's time to get started again.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we are, which is good. I'm excited to be back. And I'll start with just a huge thank you to you and Dustin for the continued support of the podcast. You know, Dustin, you know, came on, you know, 5 or 6 times last year, and I appreciate his time, and him and I love talking some wrestling too. We've you know, that gets thrown in the mix, no doubt about it. Like every time it's like, hey, we should just do our own one of those, but there's definitely not enough free time to do that.
I don't know how Dustin has any free time. I think he lives and breathes NASCAR, but then he also the WWE and between Syracuse University sports and the Bills and everything else he does. I don't know how he's got a girlfriend. I've told him that. But anyways.
Well, so it's like, you know, and I got a kid now. He turns 1 in 2 weeks, and it's like, you know, last year was a struggle for the podcast because it was like, you know, I never had to worry about it. Oh yeah, I can go record this interview with so-and-so X, you know, and it's like, now I got to make sure the wife's good and that there's no meat, you know, it's the show's being reformed and reconfigured a little bit this year. That's sure.
You got to make sure there's not kids screaming in the background and all sorts of things.
Absolutely. You got it, man. So, you know, like you said, you know, we're right here at the lead off to the season here. You know, What are things like behind the scenes for Jayski.com as a new season is getting underway?
Well, rather boring at this moment. I mean, it's really just a lot of grunt work, trying to make sure we've got all the paint schemes that have been released, trying to make sure all my team pages, you know, actually have the right driver on the right page and sponsors that have changed, you know, and of course, as many times as you look at it, you find something we missed last time. And, you know, making some race pages and just kind of trying to wrap my mind around everything that's going to kick in gear here just pretty quick.
I mean, the team chart, I mean, I live and die by that when I'm putting the show together. Like, I mean, I'll drop one other website that I visit occasionally, which is Racing Reference. But I mean, and that's purely just from the way they put their wins and the top 5s and 10s.
Yes.
It's great to a quick reference there. That's all I use them for. Everything else, it's Jayski.com to get snippets, not, you know, to talking point highlights. Like, oh, I know someone said they're doing this right there on the homepage. Like, I mean, the organization, and it really helps make my life as a podcaster of NASCAR very, very easy.
You know, Yeah, and we try to make it as much of a clearinghouse as we can. It will amaze me still to this day. I mean, I've been working for the site now for, oh goodness, let me see. This must be my 17th season or something. But I will look back at a site and say, did I post this? And then, something came up 2 days ago, like, oh my goodness, we completely forgot this. Now, usually not the big stuff.
Yeah.
But there is just a lot of NASCAR news that goes on. Even, obviously the off season slows down a lot, but especially this time of year, we're posting 10 or 12 things a day, and they're going through so fast. It's like I'll look back the next day and say completely forgot to post about that. and so it can be a little bit overwhelming at times. But between the three of us that are working full time, we try to keep on top of things.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I wanted to get your thought. We got some new rule changes. Just as you as a fan, what do you think of some of those?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything there that's too consequential. I don't know. I guess I consider the biggest, I don't know if it's the biggest, the one that I've heard fans complain about a lot is now not throwing cautions at the stage breaks on road courses. And I understand why NASCAR's doing that, and changing the strategy and all. I don't think in all practicality that's going to change the racing a lot. But that of course leads into the whole, if you watch Twitter, then now we're back on everybody those that hate stage racing are yelling again.
Sure.
And some people always want change, some never want change. But I think that's probably what I kind of caught out of probably the most substantial there.
No, I'm with you. I'm a fan of it. I wouldn't be opposed, if this works, maybe we do it at some other tracks too,
Yeah.
But,
and that's good. The real trade-off you get there, basically stages were implemented for TV breaks.
Yep.
So the first thing we're going to have this year when they go to Sonoma is we're going to go off to a break somewhere during the middle of the race, and there is going to be a 15-car pileup, and people are going to say, why am I seeing all these commercials?
Inevitable.
That's going to, because you're going to, it won't be split screen, and it won't, but
yep.
It's the
it's like you've been around a minute.
Yeah. So,
oh man.
But
Yep. So, we've got obviously some big driver changes. We got Haley Deegan going over to Thor Sport. I'm very curious to see what happens with her move there. I think this is a make or break season for her, which is a challenge when you're going to a new team. What do you think there?
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I mean, I think she's got a lot of talent. It's like any driver, she's going to have to be put in the right situation to thrive. And whether or not, a new team and all, you always generally want to think that those first years are throwaways.
Yep.
But, you go to Cup and then you look at what Trackhouse and stuff does, and, anything can happen, but the next couple of years are going to be critical for her.
Absolutely. One of the big news on the Cup side, and I know it's been talked about at length, is, Jimmy Johnson and the Petty, their new team. Speaking of Twitter, I know people are upset, like Petty isn't in the ownership name anymore. It's now
right.
Legacy. We're going to see Jimmy back on the track, which, I think that's just a plus in and of itself. You're going to have Jimmy at the track and on the track, on a handful of weekends here. And that's only going to be good for the sport, gate numbers, TV numbers, whether, he finishes, first or 36th. It's going to be good for the sport to have Jimmy back involved in the mix.
I agree, and that team made great strides last year too. And so, you think bringing Johnson on and all the resources, and there's going to be some money associated with that too, that really is going to step that whole program up. Obviously Eric Jones ran very well last year, and I would expect more of that this year. That 42 team, you never know. Obviously Noah's got some Cup experience, but that may be a little, I think they might struggle just a touch more, but still have some good results. But, overall, I think that's really good for the sport to have him back in. It wasn't that long ago, as you know, that there was this discussion 3 or 4 years ago. But what's the future of NASCAR? All these owners are so old.
Yep.
What's the stipulations going on forward there? You've got Denny Hamlin full throttle in now, and Keselowski jumps in this. Last year, obviously Gordon's been involved with Hendrick. Now Jimmy's back in, and so the future of NASCAR is looking a lot brighter. I think
it's a quick hell, and not even just so much NASCAR. A couple of years ago, we were wondering if there was even going to be a Petty Motorsports anymore too.
Well,
this is
exactly
a great shot in the arm for them. That's for sure. Another thing that's great for the sport, in my opinion, is the new tracks. We've got 2 on there this year. The All-Star race back at North Wilkesboro. We've got the Chicago Street Course, and here's what I love about it is I have been very public over the years, so this is a broken record if anyone's been listening a minute. I have a hard time buying into All-Star stuff. I don't care, NASCAR, football, hockey, whatever. But it's something new. Like, there's no way I'm not tuning into the race for North Wilkesboro, So as long as they keep some fresh stuff with that, with the All-Star thing, it's going to be impossible not to watch. I had the same issue with the Clash, and then they go to the Coliseum, and it's spectacular, and now I can't wait, Yeah.
If you're going to have a race that doesn't really mean anything, and the Clash and the All-Star race don't mean anything, you should be running it at a regular track where you run other time. That's the time to experiment. I love the Coliseum idea, and I love North. I like many people assume North Wilkesboro was dead and long gone, and probably should have been bulldozed.
Right.
But to bring it back, that just makes it all that more exciting.
No,
and
absolutely.
I'm excited about the Chicago Street Course. I think there's a lot of potential there just to tap a new market.
Absolutely. First time we've done that. I don't know ever. I don't know last time NASCAR ran a street course, if they have.
But they may have years and years ago. But
not in my 20 years of watching. So I'm excited. Excited to see.
For some reason, I want to say they did back in the 50s or 60s, but I may be making that up. But and it's because for me, the site becomes all consuming during the season. I haven't been to a NASCAR race in, I don't even want to guess. It's probably been 10 years, not actually at the track, but I'm seriously considering going to Chicago this year.
Got it.
Because, I'm in Missouri. It's an easy trip up for me. It's something completely different. They've announced concerts and stuff on either side of the Xfinity races. I don't know that I'd get to see them because I'd be working. But, it really creates an interesting atmosphere. It's around 4th of July weekend. I think there's a lot of upside for NASCAR. Giving that a try.
I love it. I'm with you right there, man. All right, Let's wrap it with this, sir. What's going to be some early headlines in your crystal ball that we're going to see on Jayski.com here as the season gets underway?
That I don't know. I was thinking about that before we called this morning. I was like, I hope he doesn't ask me who I think the favorite is for the championship this year, because I don't have any idea. Yesterday or last year was such a parity year.
Yes,
and I'm sure that goes away this year.
Yes.
Going to be some teams that are going to hit on it. So, I think everybody's going to be looking early at how does Kyle Busch transition over to Childress? Again, how does the new Legacy Motorsports, formerly Petty, how does things come together for them early on? There's some of those other Aspire Motorsport. Corey LaJoie had some really good runs late in the year last year. And so did they continue to strive. And, it's great to have AJ Allmendinger back in the series full time. And, and then, of course, and I'm not even mentioning the big name, what does Larson, Elliott, Truex, Logano, obviously here I haven't mentioned Logano yet either, but there's so many unknowns, I think.
And then not to mention, we've got the Forever Tour going on for.
There, and I haven't even mentioned Harvick's got the potential to go out and win 4 races this year, maybe more. I certainly don't think he's lost anything in his driving ability, so he could be a sleeper too for a really great season.
Absolutely. Scott, anything you want to tease that maybe Dustin's going to be dropping here over the next couple days or anything like that?
Actually, we're kind of at that quiet point right now where I think the focus is turned to just getting through the clash. Next week, I expect our NASCAR news to be quiet because obviously NFL Super Bowl will suck up all the oxygen in the sports world. And I'm not privy to anything, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a few big announcements yet the week of just leading up to Daytona.
I wouldn't be surprised either, sir. All right. Everybody, make sure you're following Jayski on Twitter. Get over to jayski.com, all your news, updates, and all that good stuff. Scott, man, thank you so much for coming on and kicking off the season with us.
You bet. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Talk to you soon, man. We'll see ya.
Thanks.
All right. Great to catch up with Scott from jayski.com. You guys know what that sound means. It is time for some Lap Traffic social media. Everybody, make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all at Lap Traffic PC. Yes, I did an okay job with TikTok last year, and we will continue to try to make improvements with the creativity, if you will, along the way. And if you've made it this far into the show, leave a review. Tell your friends about the Lap Traffic Podcast. You can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, or your favorite hosting site. You can even tell Alexa to play the Lap Traffic Podcast, and she will. Okay, I mentioned at the start of the show that I had to find a new segment, a new thing to replace the Lucky Dog and Lapped Down segment, and I put that in your guys' hands. And I absolutely loved this idea. And the winner of the Name the Segment contest is CJ LaPearl at CJ LaPearl 24, catching up with Lap Traffic. Talk with someone who has attended the race weekend, get their experiences about the race, the track, all of that. And I just think that is an absolutely fantastic idea, CJ. I think that's brilliant. And, maybe we can do it every single week. Maybe it'll be every couple weeks. Who knows? I'll send a tweet out, hey, who's going to Daytona? Or, hey, who's going to Daytona? If you're listening. If you want to come on the show and talk about your experience from driving in, traffic, parking, the concourse, the we can talk about it all. I think that's absolutely awesome, and I am looking forward to doing that with you guys, and just another way to have fan interaction with the show. I absolutely love that. CJ, I will reach out to you and get you your prize pack and see about getting you on the show with that as well. And we've got some new follower shout-outs to do as well. Sergeant Klein at SGT_Klein_VDF. Sir, thank you very much for your service. Billy at B. Centigar from Las Vegas and an off-road racing fan. Brad Nelson at B. Nelson 1309, NASCAR and country music fan. Joe No at Mistino from North Carolina and a big Mark Martin fan. Who isn't a big Mark Martin fan? And Left Turn Cult at Left Turn Cult. Now, this is where we may disagree with the Left Turn Cult because they claim to be the number one NASCAR show in the galaxy. And I couldn't think of what's bigger than a galaxy to be able to say, okay, you can have the galaxy and I'll take this. But so I'll just poke fun at them for that and throw a little shade. But in all seriousness, it's great to see so many different platforms or use of the platform with people coming out and doing podcasts. And it's fun to check out all the different ideas out there and seeing what everybody's doing. It's been a fun community over the last, entering 7 years. So that's awesome, guys. Best of luck to you. Don't forget about stickers, koozies, got them for free. All you have to do is fill out the contact page on the website and I will get them out to you. T-shirts, hoodies, all that good stuff is available on the Lapped Traffic store at thelaptrafficpodcast.com. If you want to help support the show in any way, or there's the little tipped feature on the Twitter handle at LapTrafficPC. If you're just so inclined. Appreciate you all. Okay, let's wrap things up. We don't have the weather segment this week because we're still 2 weeks away from Daytona. So we'll have that next week. There's no fantasy to recap. So I figured, well, hey, let's close things out with John Hunter Nemechek. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his third appearance on the Lap Traffic Podcast, here to kick off Season 7 and Episode 301. He is the driver of the number 20 with Joe Gibbs Racing. Welcome back, John Hunter Nemechek. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming back onto the show. Season's getting ready to kick off here. Gotta ask you, what'd you think of the Clash last night, man?
It was pretty interesting, that's for sure. I'm glad that one of our Toyota teammates and driver here at Joe Gibbs Racing was able to go out and get the job done. MTJ looked really good all weekend, was fast from the start of practice until the end of the race last night. So was definitely awesome to kind of be out there for a little bit of it and hang with all those guys. And the atmosphere is absolutely crazy in the Coliseum, and just being able to walk out of the tunnel into the grandstands and it being a completely unique venue for us, it was definitely something special. I didn't get to go last year, but being able to be out there this year was definitely an amazing experience for myself and all the fans that showed up.
That's awesome. One thing, quarter mile, is that too small, or you think we're good on a quarter mile?
I haven't driven it, so I can't give you an exact thought on that. But it's definitely some tough racing, I'll tell you that.
I can only imagine. One more general one for you here. We're coming fresh off the Rolex 24 2 weeks ago, which sees different style classes of vehicles and cars all on the same track, and we've got the Clash in NASCAR. We've got the All-Star Race. Unfortunately, the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, which you're very familiar with, they don't get to participate in that. Would you like to see NASCAR maybe do some form of a, collaboration of all three series for some type of exhibition race?
It would definitely be interesting, that's for sure. I'm not fully against it. It would be unique in itself of having three different classes, kind of like the 24 hours, but not sure exactly where you would do that at. But it definitely would be cool and unique.
Absolutely. Back to the Xfinity Series full-time, some familiarity. You've obviously run there in the past, and you've run there with Joe Gibbs before. So is this type of a off-year transition a little easier than, if you were to be joining a completely different team and all of that?
No, not really. I feel like that being at JGR has definitely felt like a home, and being within the Toyota camp, it's definitely felt like being home. So I do feel that going into this year, I haven't worked with my crew chief, Ben Bayshore, in the past. So that's definitely a relationship that we have to kick off on the right foot and be able to communicate to the best of our ability with one another and figure out what each other tendencies are within the race car and on the pit box, and being able to make adjustments. So I definitely feel like it's been a lot of work for me and Ben to kind of be able to talk to one another, communicate, and try and get kicked off on the right foot. Most of the guys that are on our 20 car, I was able to work with here at JGR in 2021, and we actually were able to get a win. So I'm looking forward to this year with this group, but definitely has not been an easy off season. It's been a lot of work and been a lot of time and effort put in.
Fair enough. You mentioned, working with a new crew chief. Have you worked with your spotter before, especially going into a track like Daytona, where spotter is, crucial guy on the team this week or, next weekend?
Yeah, I definitely have. I've had our spotter the last couple of years in the Truck Series, and thankful that I'm able to have him this year, moving up into the Xfinity Series as well. It's one of those things that you find kind of who you like and who you get comfortable with, and who you work really well with, and that's the guy that you want up on the roof spotting, and your eyes in the sky to trust them at 100% level.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. Let's see here. We are going to see some new tracks. Well, at least from you moving up from the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series has some new tracks on the schedule. Are there any tracks that you're excited to get to go to this year that you weren't able to get to last year with the Truck Series?
Every single one of them.
I love it. Short, sweet, to the point there. That's for sure. As we get into Daytona here, Speed Week, if we still call it that, what type of last minute preparation before you actually get to the track?
That's a good question. Being able to talk with the guys, talk with spotter, a lot of film watching, a lot of research, just trying to figure out the tendencies and trends of the Xfinity series and kind of what guys do and how those races have played out the last few years. So definitely trying to soak up as much information as I can before we get going. But most of all, one more weekend at home before the season kicks off. So try and spend some extra family time before we leave next week and get going for the year.
I love it. Do you want to give any shout outs to the sponsors and all of that?
Appreciate everyone that's been involved over the last couple of years and making this opportunity happen. Looking forward to going to win some races in 2023.
I love it. John Hunter, Nemechek, Lap Traffic Nation, thank you so much for coming back onto the show. Looking forward to catching up with you down the season, see how things are going for you. Best of luck at Daytona here in a couple weeks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care. We'll see you. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. Great to catch up with John Hunter Nemechek, and that is going to do it for the kickoff to Season 7 and Episode 301 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Twitter @LapTrafficPC. Huge thanks to Jeff Gluck, Scott Page from Jayski.com, and John Hunter Nemechek. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!